Hello YouTube and welcome to another video. So in today's video I wanted to talk about my experience beginning with meditation and what effects it has provided at this point. My interest in meditation began in the start of this year when I listened to the Huberman Lab podcast about meditation. I have previously mentioned this podcast in some of my other videos and will highly recommend you check it out if you're interested in a deep dive into science-based tools for subjects like health and fitness, education, etc. Andrew Huberman is, in my opinion, absolutely brilliant, and if you want some specific explanation on how and why to meditate, I would highly recommend you check out the episode. He explains in great detail the difference between a interoceptive and exteroceptive focus, breathing patterns for relaxation or for alertness, and how to choose the right meditation for a specific instance. So in terms of my experience, I started meditating about 2 months ago and have been doing it pretty much every day. I do have to admit that I have missed a couple of days, but my goal is to do it every day with a different duration depending on how much time I have on my hands. My meditation practice is not a priority for me, but just a side project to see if I could gain some benefits from it. My meditation practice is very inspired by the presented tools from the Huberman Lab podcast I just mentioned a moment ago. I always start my practice by taking 3 deep breaths with a completely interoceptive focus. I then move my focus from completely interoceptive to a part interoceptive and part exteroceptive focus. I then move into a completely exteroceptive focus and then back to a 100% interoceptive focus. It takes about 1 to 2 minutes to complete and is the absolute minimum I will do if I have a very short period of time in a situation. This is a great way for me to realize if it is easiest to have a interoceptive or exteroceptive focus at the given moment. I will then use that information to continue my meditation practice, but the practice alone is also great. If I want to continue my meditation practice, I then choose if it was the interoceptive or exteroceptive focus that was the most challenging. I will then move forward and practice the focus that was the most challenging. As a side note, I always do my meditation practice during the day, so I'm not concerned with heightening my focus later in the day. So if I want to practice my interoceptive focus, I do a very simple exercise. I just close my eyes and focus all my attention on the movement of my chest caused by my breathing. Every time my thoughts go somewhere else, I try to catch them and move them back onto my breathing. That is pretty much the entire practice. I do it for 3 to 10 minutes depending on how much time I got. I think this is a great way for me to connect with my body and feel in touch. Opposite, if I want to practice my exteroceptive focus, I keep my eyes opened. I sit by my window and look out at the horizon. Then I try to focus my thoughts on a couple of different things. First, I focus on how small I am compared to the planet we live on in the galaxy and the actual scale of the universe. I also focus on how insignificant a lot of things are if we just stretch out the time horizon. And last, I focus on that nothing is good nor bad, but that our thoughts makes it seem so. I do realize that this practice seems a bit more abstract, but I think it's a great way for gaining a wider perspective in a lot of daily situations. If I regularly remind myself through this practice of the insignificance of all the micro decisions in my daily life, I find it much easier to make decisions based on actual facts in a given situation than making decisions based on my personal feelings. That's the reason why I believe that this practice is very effective to gaining a lot more perspective. The duration of this practice is just as the interoceptive practice, so from 3 to 10 minutes, depending on how much time I have. At last, I want to touch on the specific benefits I have felt after I have begun my meditation practice. I have just mentioned the increased perspective in my decision making caused by the exteroceptive practice, which I find very valuable. I also think that the connection gained through the interoceptive practice is very beneficial, especially if I do intense exercise. If I find myself extremely challenged during a workout, I think I have been better at realizing that the pain is just signals sent from my brain, and it's been easier to push through the workout. Another benefit I have noticed after I've begun meditating is that I find it much easier to focus when I'm in school. Every time I sit in class and my thoughts begin to go away from the information presented in class, I find it much easier to register when I think of something else and then to refocus back on the actual subject. I actually find this to be one of the biggest benefits I have experienced so far. Already after a few days I noticed this difference, and therefore I just continued my meditation practice because I see it as a useful tool in terms of my education. So to round this video off, I would like to highlight the fact that I use a maximum of 12 minutes a day meditating from the beginning to the end of the practice. In my opinion, it is a very low time investment, taking into consideration all the benefits I just presented. Some days I only use about 4 minutes total. I just wanted to point out that I think I personally get a huge amount of mental benefits from a very little daily time investment. I see the meditation as a form of training of the mind, and I find it wonderful that it only takes between 4 to 12 minutes and still is very effective for me. So this was my experience as a beginner of meditation. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Besides that, I want to wish you all a great weekend, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.